Hello guys, welcome to Open Techno. In today's video, I'm bringing you some very special earbuds. These are the REDMAGIC Cyberbuds DAO TWS, a complex name for headphones that are very special because of their quality, and especially because they are designed for people who play video games. These headphones' most notable feature is their aesthetics. As you can see, the charging base we have is an RGB LED charging base that comes with a controller so we can change the lights, colors, and effects of the base. And then, magnetically, we can separate the charging base from the headphones themselves, and with this opening movement, we would have access to the headphones themselves. As you can imagine, these headphones aren't cheap. I'll share their price now. Their price is 270 euros, but throughout this video, we are going to see several features that make these headphones worth that price. Let's start first with the packaging, something we can't overlook when talking about these headphones. The headphones come in this box, a box that looks futuristic, quite modern, and they come in this part right here. What do we find inside? Well, first of all, of course, the headphones with their charging base, and also the wireless charging base with these RGB LEDs. In addition, we're gonna have a little velvet-like pouch that opens with a small spring on the side, and we could use it to carry these headphones around. So they don't get dirty, don't get scratched, and, well, above all, so we can keep track of them. As you can see, a really cool travel pouch. Also, we get a small dongle that would be used to connect the headphones. For example, if we want to use them with our desktop computer or whatever and it doesn't have Bluetooth, we would use this little device that would connect to the back of the charging base. Then we get two cables, two USB cables, one USB-C to USB-C and one USB-A to USB-C for more traditional computers. And finally, I should also mention that we get a set of interchangeable ear tips that we can swap out on the earbuds because yes, these earbuds come with ear tips so they fit our ears perfectly. Let's talk about a few technical specifications that are important to understand the reason why these headphones exist. First of all, as I mentioned, these are headphones that are aimed at the gaming world. To bring headphones into the gaming world, it's important to reduce latency because mainly professional gamers use wired headphones to reduce latency, the time between when the computer generates a sound and when we hear it through headphones. Well, if we use wireless technologies, what will happen is that this time will increase, which puts us at a disadvantage when playing. What does REDMAGIC do to ensure that this latency is reduced to a minimum? To values that the human ear or the human body is practically unable to detect whether we've had any kind of latency or not. Well, we have a Qualcomm chip that is compatible with Bluetooth 5.3, the latest Bluetooth technology, which allows us to achieve latencies of 28 milliseconds. These 28 milliseconds are, normally, wireless Bluetooth headphones have higher latency. In fact, you can check this yourself when you're playing a song. If you skip forward or backward, there's a slight delay where the audio cuts out and then starts again. However, with these headphones, that doesn't happen. With these headphones, it feels like the audio is instant, as if you were using wired headphones. But to use this feature, it's important to have this chip connected to the back of the charging base. But these headphones don't stop there. Additionally, we have noise reduction along with the corresponding transparency mode. For those of you who don't know what noise reduction is, it's when you put on headphones, for example. If you're on a flight or in a noisy environment, it cancels out all the external sound so you can focus on what's playing through the headphones. We would hardly hear any external sound, but what happens with headphones that also have ear tips? They already isolate us quite a bit from this external sound, so we have a transparency mode. It picks up the sound from outside and brings it in, so if we're having a conversation, for example, we don't have to take off our headphones to hear the conversation clearly and avoid misunderstandings and so on. It's a much more comfortable process without having to take off the headphones. To finish with technical features, let's talk about the battery. The battery promises us 7.5 hours of continuous use. But, however, based on my experience, I'm gonna tell you no. That my experience is that the usage is more or less about 5 hours before we have to recharge the headphones. Possibly this has to do with the fact that I used equalization, transparency mode, and noise reduction mode. These also make more use of the chips inside the headphones, the whole thing with the lights as well, which I'll talk to you about now. Well, all of this consumes battery and reduces usage time. And finally, the diaphragm of these headphones is an 11mm graphene diaphragm. Honestly, we'll talk about quality later, but they've really surprised me. These have been the best headphones I've ever listened to. These are in-ear headphones as they're called, the ones that go inside your ears. Of course, there are better headphones like the over-ear ones that go around your whole head. But among in-ear headphones, these are the best I've ever listened to. The bass is amazing and the sound clarity is impressive. I wish I could convey that to you, but it's impossible. But I assure you, if you try them, you'll be blown away by the quality of these headphones. And let's also talk about something regarding their appearance. And the thing about these headphones is that their advantage is they have a completely transparent design. That's something people who are geeks, like me for example, really like. This case, for example, you'll see that it has the wireless charging base on this back part. And then the headphones, once we put them on, we'll be able to see absolutely all the chips inside, along with a small LED that lights up in different colors when we're listening to music. Here you'll be able to see the battery, you'll probably see the processor, all the contacts, and honestly, it's amazing. On the box as well, on the front part, you can see it, and it's really cool to have the headphones completely transparent. Then, when we put them on and we're listening to music, two things surprised me. Of course, apart from the quality, which I just mentioned. The quality seems impressive to me, by far the best of all the headphones I've tried. But we have a mobile app from which we can control a lot of things. Of course, first of all, the equalization. We can adjust everything as we like. I'm mainly testing the equalizer in pop music mode, which I preferred by default and haven't changed further. From here, we're also going to be able to activate the low latency mode. This will be the mode that allows us to use the headphones with a 28 millisecond delay while we're gaming. And further down, we can also set up the transparency mode, which as I mentioned, will let us hear outside sounds. For example, right now I can hear myself a lot. It's better while I'm talking, and on the other hand, the noise reduction mode works in this mode. Right now, I can barely hear anything I'm saying, although we can set different modes. For example, making this mode much more intrusive, or a lower mode where the sensation of external noise reduction is less noticeable. On the other hand, we have the light settings. We can activate it from here, and now we have it. I don't know if you can see it, but on the side, there would be a color that can change. It changes based on the music, or we can set it as a single color. For example, right now, I'm setting it to a single green color, or we can also set it to stay on all the time and not change based on the music. All of this depends on your preferences, but as I said, it uses up battery. If you want to maximize the battery life of these headphones, you should turn it off. On the other hand, I've always told you that I don't like these in-ear headphones when they have ear tips, because usually when I do this, they fall out. However, these headphones surprised me. I'm surprised that they have a really good grip, and I think they're the first or second ones that fit my ears the best, because I don't know why, but these types of headphones always pop out and fall out for me. But with these, I've shaken my head pretty hard, and they don't fall out at any moment. Of course, these are headphones you can use for sports, but I don't recommend it, first of all because of the price. The price is quite high to risk losing them at the gym, having them fall on the street, or something happening to them. Well, it's something I wouldn't do. However, you should know that you'll be able to move around the house without any problem. I also forgot to mention that the case has a button to start the Bluetooth connection and then a USB-C charger that we could use. So, for example, if we've taken this case on a trip and we don't want to bring the wireless base, we could connect it directly to this case via USB-C and charge the headphones. We don't necessarily need the wireless charging base. As you can see, my setup isn't very gaming. Honestly, I started with a setup that was pretty gaming. Making videos has gotten very minimalist lately, so maybe these headphones with LED lights don't really fit here right now. However, they've become headphones that gamers can have on their desk. They can be headphones for playing with your friends. They have a built-in microphone, which is a pretty big advantage, and it's also worth mentioning how little space they take up. As you can see, we have to connect them using a USB-C if we want to use them wired, which adds another cable to the desk. But we could also use them completely wirelessly, in which case we wouldn't need this cable. And simply, the base itself is the only thing we would need to have in the setup. Also, compared to typical over-ear gaming headsets, like some Astro ones that come with a very large microphone and so on, as you can see, the space they take up is minimal. As I mentioned, the headphones cost 260 euros. It's not a cheap price at all, but it's a price that would be worth it for any headphones, like these over-ear gaming headsets. However, these headphones are going to offer us the same experience or even better because of their portability, since we can take them with us on trips much more comfortably. And I'm telling you, the quality is impressive. You won't miss anything compared to over-ear headphones when it comes to bass or sound clarity. In this video, I summarized the headphones, but as I always say, it's difficult to convey how they actually sound. So what I'd like is for you to go down to the link to the page we've left below. You should also check out the features of these headphones for yourselves, and if you feel like it, give them a try. They won't disappoint you at all. Of course, you can buy them, and if you don't like them, return them, and that way you can see for yourselves how effective they are. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the video and that you liked the REDMAGIC headphones. It's a brand by Nubia, and I hope you check them out. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.